Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with, it's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thank you so much for checking us out. As always, you know the drill. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. I am so excited to have back on the shows AJR, Ryan, Jack. How you both doing? Welcome.
Very good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. And the brand new record, OK Orchestra. It's expansive, it's fun, it's huge. There's so much going on. What was the idea for the concept behind this as you went into it? Because it definitely seems like there is a high concept happening.
Right. I think very rarely do we have a concept when we go into an album. I think usually it's just, let's start with songs, let's write, the first 5 songs that we like, and let's start to see, okay, is there a common theme about what we're innately trying to write about? And for the first 5 we wrote for OK Orchestra, it became clear because we were writing it during the pandemic. Okay, this is going to be a very inward-facing album. This is not going to be an album about going to parties and even like the struggles of going to parties. It's going to be an album about thinking about something that happened in 8th grade and how that affects you, or thinking about what do I want to do with my life. It's going to be very introspective. And I think very quickly we realized, okay, that's kind of the theme for this album, and the idea of worrying about being obsolete and worrying after this pandemic, are fans still going to be there? Are we still going to matter to anybody? And kind of blowing that up and making it more about the human experience in that way.
Yeah, you mentioned 8th grade, and that definitely comes up in the songs. What is it about that time in your life specifically that that's like the 1955 moment of Back to the Future? It seems to all come back to 8th grade on this record.
Yeah, I think maybe even on past albums too, we've mentioned 8th grade.
What is that? It's like that middle ground between nothing and everything. I mean, I guess you never know everything, but it's just like right in the middle there at your most awkward time, where you're the most kind of in free fall. All right, I'm going to make my friends. I'm going to decide who I am as a person. You're kind of starting there. So you're very vulnerable at that age. So that's kind of the age I go to when it's like I'm about to become an adult and I'm or a pre-adult. It's really interesting. For some reason, that's just where my mind goes to.
Yeah, it is interesting because I was trying to maybe, and excuse me if I'm pulling here too far, going too far, but it seems to be like finding the parallels of then and now. Like obviously knowing those points in the record where you're referencing, your youth and something like that, but also finding those moments where you're facing your present, where it almost seems like at certain times like there's an imposter syndrome that might be happening in some of these songs. Like,
yeah,
almost to the point where we never really leave that feeling.
Yeah,
no,
that's actually really good analysis. Yeah. I think we have a lot of songs like 3 O'Clock Things or Humpty Dumpty. There's a lot of songs about that, of what's the real me and what's the me that I project to everybody and what's the actual me. And going back to 8th grade, I think that's probably the most formative time where you're trying to figure out, what's the real me? Am I just a collection of all the cool kids at school and I'm just kind of mirroring what they do? You're like the most vulnerable, you're the most nothing that you'll ever be in your life, except when you were like an infant. You're just like, I have no thoughts. I'm just media and other kids and my parents. And let me try to make a personality out of this.
It's so funny that I have a son. He's almost 14. He'll be going into 8th grade next year. So suddenly I'm really paying attention to these lyrics again. It's
that's so funny.
Good.
Yeah, hopefully, I feel like everybody goes through a phase. For probably both of us, it was around 8th grade. Maybe it hits you later, maybe it hits you earlier, but there's a place where you have to recalibrate. I'm used to being a kid. Like, you get good at being a kid by like 6th grade, and then all of that gets thrown out the window as soon as you go through puberty. It's now I have to figure out how to be an adult.
Yeah. What's interesting, so we'll draw it back to the present, because, and you hit on the on 3 O'Clock Things on there, which is just maybe my favorite song on this record. It's, I like the record. I love the record. So it's going to be one of those albums where I'll probably give you a different answer every single day about my favorite one. But right now I am really honed in on that one. And I think because it does speak so much to the present day, and this is a more direct song that I think you guys have, or that you usually write anyway, about what's happening. And I will say politically, I mean, there's the line on it. If you're a fucking racist, then don't come to my show. That's the part where I think the mouth drop happens, like, everybody's like going. what went into that? I mean, was there ever any questioning like, this is the song we're writing?
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that. I was thinking about that recently. I guess it's kind of sad that people's mouths do go open. You know, that I hope that, you know, even next year, you know, 10 years from now, that's just like, oh yeah, if you're fucking, obviously, you know, and obviously we knew that would be sort of a shocking thing. I think that was honestly the first line that went into that song, right? I think we had that as part of maybe another sort of political idea that we were working on, and nothing from there was really kind of hitting. But we were like, God, that is so good, and that just so has to be said, and it's just going to be a great moment because it's so true to us. And then it became this sort of interesting song. We might almost maybe worked backwards a little bit. It was like, we know the one thing that we're going to include for sure is, you know, if you're fucking racist, then don't come out to my show. And then there's this really interesting idea, which is, you know, there are two sides of, you know, whatever. There's two sides in politics, and I believe this and I believe this. And it's a little uninteresting to go right in and say, I'm correct, this is my side, everyone is completely wrong, because it's just not true. You know, whether or not you disagree with someone, they have ideas that are valid for that whatever reason, and they can defend it. And we thought that was a lot more interesting than just saying, this is right, this is right. So it is a lot very cloudy, and everyone knows that. But, you know, the one thing for sure that no one can argue with is, if you're fucking racist, then don't come to my show. And if you can argue with it, we don't want anything to do with you. So that was kind of the idea. And we thought, we worked backwards from there, being like, maybe let's not start it politically. Maybe let's kind of create this world of being awake at 3 a.m., which is definitely the most vulnerable time in the 24 hours of the day, where you really have to be asleep. You're very upset that you're not asleep. So your mind sort of takes off on its own and starts reevaluating, like we said, things you said in 8th grade, and am I this, and then it sort of ventures into, you know, the world of politics. Is this right? Is this the kind of person I should be? And then it all comes to that sort of flow. So it was, I'm glad that that's one of your favorites. I'm glad it's our fans, definitely our fans' favorites, because it's definitely one of the more complex ones on the album. It definitely has a story and an arc to it.
Yeah, well, it's such an interesting angle that you are writing it from too, because, you know, you, like, as you're saying, I'm only repeating you here, but you could have written just a political song. This is almost a song about writing political songs. You know, it's that whole thing about, because for the longest time, it's exactly what especially artists in the pop world have been told, like, hey, ride the fence. You know, that's what, and I think that's been one of the most unfortunate things about that side of the music industry, is that it feels like it's taken longer. And now, you know, more and more, of course, you know, are coming out. I don't think it's a taboo thing anymore for folks to say what they mean, but it did seem like that for the longest time.
Yeah, I think that people's goals, I think, have changed a little bit, at least like artists that, you know, that we're friends with and artists we look up to. I think a lot of times it's no longer, let me be on every radio station and everybody on planet Earth know my name and be a fan of me. And instead, there's been almost a splintering of the music industry, where there's like, from an artist perspective, I care about having fans that really love me, even if it's a smaller number. That's okay. But like, if they really on socials and they really come out to shows and they dissect the music, there's kind of like a certain passion there that, okay, that's okay if I don't get you know, middle America, or if you like choose, you know, a certain, okay, maybe they're not going to be the biggest fan of what I'm doing, but if these people really are passionate about it, then it's kind of worth it. And I think that there's been a little bit of you know, magic in the air in the last probably 10 years, like right around when social media took off, because now you have more instant feedback. Instead of seeing numbers of these charts that were charting, it's more about, I see instant feedback. This is how much people love what I'm making.
Yeah, it's all my favorite artists. That's the way they've always been, you know, from back in the Pearl Jam days, when they kind of knew that they were chopping their fan base in half, and everybody afterwards, you know, that's exactly what I look for.
Yeah,
my favorites.
Yeah. I think we made a conscious decision at some point. We were going to be that kind of band. That's okay. We're not for everybody, but we're really for some people.
While we're hitting on that song with 3 o'clock things, I want to hit on the music side of it too, obviously, because that's the other fun thing about this. You know, it hits on that sound of the 30s and 40s, which I'm such a big fan of. Is it a sample that we're hearing?
No.
That is
wow.
Thank you. That's something that we thought of on the last record of. We wanted people to have that reaction that you just had of, you know, on the last Neo Theater album. It starts with "Your eyes are open," and basically this sort of Disney close harmony choir. And we really wanted people to go, "Oh, where'd you sample that from?" And we wanted to say we actually created that. We thought that was sort of a new cool step in music that hopefully if, Kanye saw us do that, he'd be like, oh, shoot, I wish I thought of that first. That was sort of the idea. But yeah, we thought this was great. And this sound of the close harmony female sort of like Bette Midler, Boogie Woogie, Bugle Boy, that's something that we thought of when we were like in college, even before we made the Neo Theater record. Maybe we were back doing the Click of like, we know we want to do this. We're not quite good enough musicians yet. We had some other songs that tried to do that didn't go on the Click that weren't very good. That like kind of got it across. We said, okay, now is the time. I think we've done our homework and can really, really achieve it. And Ryan, actually, all the credit to him, arranged those harmonies by himself. Yeah. And I'm not sure how he figured it out, but he did a good job.
I think it was a lot of trial and error. I think it's about the way it's sung. It's not, come on, guys. It's come on, guys. Yeah. It's very soft and like subtle. The harmonies are like weird 6th and 7th and jazz chords. And then on top of that, I think we just learned how to produce it in a more realistic way of how they used to sound, where it was all mid and no high and low.
I mean, capturing that sound, again, amazing props that you all did that, because, you mentioned Bugle, excuse me.
Whoa.
Boogie Woogie, Bugle Boy. That's what I'm trying. The Andrews Sisters right there. And I think of things like the Ink Spots and all of those groups. I mean, because there is something about that sound, even when you are sampling, obviously you are not, but even when you are, that lends itself so well to just about any era. And I think every era there's somebody that's been able to figure it out, but not everybody, and I don't know what it is. And maybe you guys, because you've been inside the DNA of those songs, like what is it about it that lends itself so well to what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think if you asked us to try to make an 80s sounding song like what The Weeknd is doing, we would be totally lost. I would have no idea what to do. We're definitely not experts at reestablishing old styles of music, but that in particular, I don't know. It just has always spoke to us. That movies from that era and music from that era just feels so like
there's
innate.
This weird, irony and fantastical sound to it. It's just it feels almost like an escape to us. It feels like you're almost put into an old movie, which is such a weird feeling.
Yeah, very innocent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get that right from the beginning too. I mean, just that the intro to the overture, when she comes on, which is funny you mentioned the 80s, because there is a moment that reminds me, Big Audio Dynamite's, the song Rush. Are you all familiar with that one at all?
No, not at all.
There is a sample in the middle, and this is Mick Jones from The Clash, was the band that he did after The Clash. And he does a sample where a guy comes on and talks about the song needing rhythm and melody, and it breaks down and he goes, this rhythm and melody, and then here you all are coming from the same point with the drums and melody line.
Oh, that's funny. We have to check that out. Yeah. Cool.
One of the greatest songs of the 80s. Let me pass that over to you there. But
love it. Thanks for the rec. I love that.
But I did read, as far as samples goes, there are samples on the record, at least a few, right? I mean, in Way Less Sad, did I read that right? With Simon and Garfunkel?
That's so funny. We're like, where? Yes, a huge one on Way Less Sad. That is My Little Town by Simon and Garfunkel. And that's probably, we're, huge Simon and Garfunkel fans growing up. And that was probably our favorite song by them. And it was really funny because at the end of My Little Town, I think the song is like 4 minutes long. In the fade out in the last 3 seconds, there's a totally new horn line that comes on that's nowhere else in the song. And it's by far the catchiest horn line of the whole song. I remember having to turn the volume up in the car in order to, let's try to catch those last 3 seconds and hear the best part. We were always confused why, Paul Simon didn't push it earlier. So we said, this is so great. Let's give this a shot. Let's kind of take it and see if it works in the setting of a big drop. And it was one of those very few and far between magic moments that you get in music that it just works right away and don't change a thing. Like once you put it in, don't touch it. It's good to go. And that's exactly what it was. And so we cleared the sample, and Paul Simon actually ended up hearing the song and giving it his approval. He let us use it, which is cool. And that was the story. And it was sort of a dream come true because we isolated that sample to use like 9 years ago. We've just been waiting for the right moment.
That's amazing. I was talking with someone else about this the other day, another artist. In fact, it was David Duchovny. I was talking to this about the moments of those songs like that when right at the end of the song, it's like they throw in a new riff and you're like, wait a second, That's an amazing riff. Did you just waste that? Did you like I was talking about the Neil Young song Cinnamon Girl, like right at the end, he throws in this completely new riff. And I was like, dude, you could do an entire song off of that riff and it would be like one of the best songs that he ever done. You know,
there are a lot of those. My Father's Gun, Elton John,
right.
The walk up and piano. It's you have to turn it and it's like a 40-second, outro.
I think it's just those artists that have such a surplus of hooks. They're like, yeah, throw one,
I got way more where this came from. Yeah, just wait for the next one. Yeah.
You talk about getting something cleared from Paul Simon, which I know must have been a big moment as a fan. And I see those moments happening to you guys, at least on social media, what you let us see more and more. Will Smith freestyling over your song. Was there a story there? Or is that just something that you guys received as well?
That was me waking up to this video. We got no warning whatsoever. It's so cool because I always dreamed of the moments where celebrities would start caring about us, about like we would start getting so in the culture that even celebrities would endorse us. And it never really happened. And because I think that we were definitely, I think that's when we realized we're just some people's cup of tea. We're not everyone's cup of tea. We have this very specific, audience. And then Bang kind of came around and that exploded. That's obviously our biggest hit to date. And then we realized, wow, that's what happens when you poke out into the mainstream. Everyone knows your stuff, including Will Smith. And then it wasn't even like, oh, I like this song Bang. It was him freestyling over it, which is just like totally, anyone would assume we paid him 10 grand to put up a post to promote the song, but it's just not what happened. He just did it himself, which was very, very cool. I was grinning ear to ear.
What a mind-blowing, surreal moment that's got to be for any artist in that position. And while we're name dropping on the situation too, of course, we have to bring in Rivers Cuomo from Weezer a little bit here because there are the tie-ins. You guys are part of their song, All My Favorite Songs. Couldn't remember that for a second. The album title, does that tie into the whole kind of joke as well? They're OK Human versus Radiohead's OK Computer, and now you have OK Orchestra. Is that part of it?
No, not at all, actually. That was a serious coincidence. And I know that sounds fake. It's not at all. I remember we put out the album, we put out the title, and he texted me, hey, what a coincidence with the album names. And I looked and I truly didn't know that their album, I knew they were putting out an album. I did not know it was called OK Human. I was like, oh my God, it actually is a coincidence, man. And it's funny because you would think he's writing it in like a sarcastic, oh, what a coincidence. But if you meet Rivers, he is the least sarcastic. He does not use sarcasm. He was literally saying, oh, cool coincidence. And no, so that didn't really tie into it all. I think it was just a funny moment of, similar minds and similar writers having the same idea.
Well, I guess that goes back to the similar minds, similar situations. I mean, when you even take the song, All My Favorite Songs, the next line are slow and sad, which ties right back around to your all's latest single, I guess, with way less sad. So it's like whatever was happening in both of your worlds was right there.
I know it's funny, and I think and he even has said this. I just think we have similar brains when it comes to songwriting, and I realize that those two songs are really similar as well. And we've hung out with him a ton, and he's 100% right. He has this very self-deprecating, left of center way of writing, and that's why we're so fascinated to spend so much time with him and work with him.
We're also both melody first, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's rather rare in the alt music community. I think a lot of times melody is a little forgotten and replaced with vibe, atmospheric vibe. And I think Weezer has always done a really good job of doing very pop sensibility melodies, like really pop, like Max Martin level melodies, dressing them up with enough electric guitars and drums to feel like a rock song. And I think we kind of take the same approach.
And like I said, it's a good marriage of friendships, what you guys are doing with each other. I mean, even on that one, collaborative song right there with you're all tapping in on theirs. Real quick, I know we don't have one of the brothers here with Adam. He's been doing some really interesting stuff. And I was wondering if you guys could talk a bit about that, what he's been up to in DC.
Oh my God.
Yeah, wow. Maybe if we had been listening to what he was saying for the past 5 years, we would know. No.
Yeah, he's about to get his PhD, or did he just turn it in? Oh, no, he's waiting to defend it, right? Yeah. He's about to get his PhD. You've asked the wrong people to describe what he does, but he does a lot of work with the UN. And
he's fighting for sustainability and coming up with, ways to make sustainability cool and appeal to basically the younger mass and younger crowd, and try to get young people involved in getting excited about saving the earth.
Yeah, and writing like policies for politicians. He's doing insane stuff. We should have done more research before you had research.
Yeah, let me look up his Wikipedia.
He's doing the hook version of the environmental politics of what you guys are doing with the song. See, that's it.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great metaphor. Yeah.
Let me just simplify it, the whole thing. You know, it's as I'm sure he would probably not prefer. I love what you guys are doing musically. I've been such a fan for a while now, and to continue this, I do think this is my favorite record that you guys have done to date.
Oh, wow.
With OK Orchestra. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk about it. It's been a real pleasure talking to you both.
Oh, thanks so much. That's really nice.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, and I hope to see whatever live show this produces. I know the bigger tour dates are coming, next year? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Those tour dates are next year, and we might be announcing some other ones for later this year. We might be.
Awesome. I'll look forward to it. Thank you both for taking the time. We'll see you around soon.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, bye.